Hi guys, in this video I'll be talking about my experience of moving to France as a non-speaker. So I moved to France in 2010 as a non-speaker. I could barely say bonjour, je m'appelle Esther, like I knew no French, with my 7-year-old daughter and my French boyfriend. What was happening in 2010, why I moved? I just finished my degree. My partner had moved back to France and we had decided I'd follow him afterwards. We'd been dating for a couple of years at this point and I was kind of ready for a new adventure. I wasn't scared of anything, to be honest, at this age. I was super curious of other cultures. And if anything, I imagined myself living in Germany. I was doing German at university. I had an okay level and I was thinking of maybe even doing a gap year and going over to Germany with my daughter for a year. Love German, still love German now. So that's kind of like where I imagined myself going. I never anticipated I would have met a French guy and ended up moving to France. So France was never on the radar. And love you French people, but like French food is not my thing. I'm not into the cheeses. I'm not into the French wine and the berets. Like no, I've never imagined, like it's too sophisticated. It's French culture is not necessarily, and French cuisine is not necessarily something I sought after. A lot of people that move to France, they love the French culture and it draws them there and they want to go to France. For me, it was like, why not? And do something different. Like I said, so back then I was young and like full of courage and not scared of a thing. So I didn't even really have a fixed idea of what it would be like. I didn't even think about like, I can't talk to anyone in French. How am I going to make friends? I just was like, I'm moving to France, had a party, said bye to my friends and moved. So we drove down in my old Puma, my baby. We drove down in my car, we took the Channel Tunnel and we drove all the way straight to the south of France. All my things were packed up from my apartment and they were sent over by a moving company and they drove them across a bit later on. But initially when we left, it was me, my daughter, our cat, my boyfriend, and we left. When we arrived in the south of France, I'd visited many times before, so nothing really threw me. The climate was hot. I don't necessarily like hot countries, but it wasn't unusual. I'd been there before, so the climate was beautiful at the time. And the palm trees, the view. We initially moved to Draguignan, and then we moved to Camps-le-Source, which is near Brignoles. So Draguignan is lovely. We were staying with my parents-in-law at the time and we were just like getting used to and adapting. So I was still kind of like in my bubble. I was with my daughter, I was with my partner who we spoke in English and nothing was out of the norm. To be honest, it felt a bit like a holiday. There was nothing crazy about the culture shock or anything like that. We went to the shops, which still seemed fun and exciting. So initially, the move was really, really positive. A couple weeks later, we then moved to our quaint little village and it literally had one shop, like a tabac, so you can buy, I don't know, cigarettes and play lottery. It had a church, which I don't even think was being used anymore. And it had a mairie, which is like the town hall, mayor's office, and it had a school. And there were times in the past the school was closed because there wasn't enough people living there. So yeah, it was very, very small, but gorgeous. It was super quaint. My daughter was 7 at the time when we moved. So it was lovely. Like she adjusted really, really well. And when we arrived there, it was just the end of the summer holidays. So I put her into summer camp, Centrary, during the summer, and she picked up French quite rapidly. My ex-partner started speaking to her in French almost immediately. And I want to say within 3 or 4 weeks, my daughter was pretty much having basic conversations in French. Me, on the other hand, I was still watching EastEnders, all my soaps. I met 2 friends in the village. One was Filipino and she spoke really good English. The other was a German girl, which was wonderful, but she also spoke English. So I kept reverting back to my default, which was English. And my French did not progress at all. Also, I had in my head that I couldn't learn French. It was too difficult. German, God bless my soul. I loved German, like tschüss. Like I love German, just a beautiful language. I personally love it. I know there's people that say it's really harsh and Einstein, but no, German is like Guten Tag, Tschüss, Auf Wiedersehen. It's just super cute. But German was a struggle. I had to really work for the level of German I had. My teacher was like, I've never seen a student so passionate about German but so poor in German. So I thought, well, I've got no chance with French, because it wasn't even something on my radar to want to learn. It's just because of like circumstances that I happened to be there. Do you know what I mean? So French for me was a bit of a mental barrier, and I put it off for a very, very long time. So after a couple of months, I was like, getting in the routine of dropping my daughter off at school. She came home at lunchtime, dropping her back, and just the slow pace of life, which I welcomed at the time. To be honest, it was lovely. Like the bells rang at, I want to say, every hour and every 15 minutes. So sometimes she'd just be playing in the street with the other kids. And I would say, like, come back in an hour, and she knew when an hour was. She'd hear the bells and come back in. There was a little stream. There was like really, really just gentle pace to everything, and the community sense of community was really lovely. Everyone says bonjour. Everyone, as soon as you make eye contact, you say hello. And yeah, it was really familiar, really friendly, and a really small, village environment. Paperwork in France is quite extensive, and I didn't really realize at the time how much day-to-day paperwork was involved. So when we initially moved to France, my ex-boyfriend had found the apartment, handled the lease, the references and everything like that. So I just literally arrived. So for him, I guess there was a lot of pressure on him at the time. I didn't really realize, but there was so much involved in French paperwork. My daughter's school stuff, I couldn't understand a thing, so that was all on him. Signing the paperwork, school trips, anything, homework. She pretty much did the homework with him initially, and then alone. Like she could have told me she had no homework and I would have believed her. I didn't know what she was doing. So that part of things, I was really unaware and a little bit ignorant to the amount of paperwork involved when you move to France. When I finally realised I really need to do the paperwork side of things is when I felt like ready and comfortable and acclimatised to start working. So at that point, I realised like I need to have my paperwork in place. In 2010, when I moved, Brexit wasn't a thing. We were still part of Europe, so everything was quite easy and straightforward to apply for jobs. I just had to translate my CVs and everything. But again, I had a big struggle with the language. I did have my qualifications for teaching English as a foreign language, so I did have that. However, I still felt like you need a certain level of French to be able to be teaching in like a private or an international school, because some of the kids are still more, accustomed to French, and I just wasn't ready. So my initial job was a cleaning job, which in French is femme de ménage, and I absolutely loved it. I made some really good friends doing that, and I worked hard. I was cleaning car garages and showroom factories. I was cleaning like general factories. I was cleaning people's homes. I was cleaning schools, the toilets, all sorts. But I got in there and I got stuck in, and it was really, really wonderful. Again, I met some really wonderful people. I kind of learned a little bit how things work in France regarding, paperwork, the roll pay or pay slips, that kind of language. I learned a lot. Obviously, I learned a lot of cleaning vocabulary, and my French, just having conversations with the women I was working with, my French started to improve. Not drastically, but slowly started to improve. And I was quite proud of myself. Like initially I'd thought I'm gonna have to sneak my daughter with me to work to find out, what they're saying and what they want me to do. But little by little, like I was able to pick up the vocabulary and, do what was necessary. Looking back now, there are certain jobs I had where I feel maybe I was a little bit taken advantage of, because I do feel like I was doing a lot more work than the other ladies, or like we kind of like had chantiers, we had it divided up. And sometimes I was cleaning like one or two more classrooms than they were, and they were always finished a little bit before me. So I just think, they were like, she doesn't understand, like, tell her to do this, tell her to do that, or not. And I just got on with it kind of thing, but it is what it is. So as time went on, my French improved. I made a few French friends as well. And unfortunately, my relationship, I guess I would say, started to deteriorate a little bit more. In England, I was like the main breadwinner. I was independent. I was the one that kind of like, you know, took the lead on stuff. We spoke in English and I kind of like, you know, took care of things mainly in the UK. When we moved to France, I felt almost like I was on his turf and it was like his way of doing things. And I was very dependent, sorry, on him. And I can imagine for him that must have been really, really exhausting looking back. And also for me, it didn't really help me have the, you know, the ability to branch out on my own and do things. Like we still often resorted to speaking in English. And when I asked him to translate things, it got like, you know, a bit tiring for him. And just, yeah, certain things were breaking down in our relationship. And I was becoming aware that this wasn't for me anymore and for him as well. Once my relationship officially broke down, I had the dilemma and the heartbreak of what do I do now? So I was like, do I stay in France or do I go back to the UK? To be honest, like everything in me was screaming, go back home. I had my daughter's dad there. I had my family, my sisters. I had really wonderful, and now like 15 years on, I just realized what great friends I have in the UK. So like really exceptional friends. And here I was like Billy no mates on my own. Everything in our apartment was pretty much his or his family's. I had a few things but not much. I was literally starting all over again. The one good thing I did have was I was working on a short-term contract covering a woman's maternity leave in Marseille. So at this point I was taking a bus every day from where we were in this village all the way to Marseille. And I loved Marseille at the time. Like it was just where I was working, but I loved Marseille. So I was getting this bus like pretty much 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours back. And I did that for a year. And then when our relationship broke down, it came to the point where my boss was like, this lady's not coming back. Would you like the job? So I was like, everything is aligning. Something tells me I'm meant to be in Marseille. So I literally went all in. I went house hunting with friends and was like, okay, I can do the paperwork now. My level was a little bit better. Obviously working in the school, you know, my assistant was also French. So I had to really like speak French. I had no choice. I jumped in the deep end. So I was actually naturally picking up French really, really well. And I believed I could do it. So I met my landlord and I signed the lease, and it was like one of the best days. Like it was amazing. So in 2013, I officially moved to Marseille with my daughter. And that was the beginning of a whole new adventure. When I say like how proud of her I was, how proud of myself, I have no words. So that just shows being able to do that on my own. You can literally move to another country without the language and go from zero to being, as I would say now, pretty fluent. I'm not bilingual by any means, but I don't really translate or go via English to speak. I speak, my grammar is terrible because I picked it up from little kids, but I speak French and I understand most things in French quite well. So yeah, it's definitely possible. If any of you are thinking of moving and you're just like scared as an adult, can I pick up the language? Can I do this? You can do it for sure. And it will only get easier. And especially if you throw yourself in and don't be so reserved and like in your little English bubble as I was, you'll pick it up even faster. It's definitely doable. When you move to another country, especially by yourself, not knowing the why, it forces you to confront everything about yourself and everything you thought you were or you thought you knew about yourself. You start again. Like you can't go by just like, hi, I'm Esther. Hi, I'm Esther, but what does that mean? My culture, like my creature comforts, my food. No, that's not here. My programs, my social habits, my friends. No, that's not here. You are forced literally to rebuild yourself from scratch and what is important to you, and just have that self-knowing, self-confidence, self-esteem that you can literally be anywhere. I can literally be put in any country, in any circumstance, and I know I have that solid center of myself because I've had to work out who I am from zero, basically, if you know what I mean. It's a tricky one, but it definitely made me realize what is identity as well. When you're stripped away from everything you know and love, you really have to like dig deep to work out who you are behind, you know, your race, your gender, your identity per se is the identity behind that. So once I was established in our apartment and we had our routine going on, I was working full time, my daughter was at school, we really just enjoyed life. There's so much to do in Marseille. We had beach days, we went for apéro, for drinks. I met a core group of women that became my sisters. Like, things just started to fall into place. But the one thing I knew was missing for me, I still knew deep down I wanted more children and I wanted to get married. I wanted a husband. I really wanted a partner. Obviously, things didn't work out with my ex, but something told me I'm going to meet someone wonderful. I'm going to have more kids. And as time went on, I continued my life. I still was happy. I was full. I was content. But whenever I'd see a pregnant woman, whenever I'd see like a family with children, something in the back of my mind was like, okay, just look at that, feel, take that in. You're around, you're vibrating and seeing these things that you too will have soon. And in 2019, so we've got a long way. And in 2019, I met my partner, my husband now, and we continued on to have 3 more children. So just all of that to say, like, my experience in France has been crazy, but those 15 years that have broken me and also rebuilt me, and that there's just nothing like it. It's been one of the most wonderful experiences of my life. And there's always, you might not see the reason or the why at the time, like, who am I to move to France? Like, what am I doing living in the south of France? I never imagined that. So one, anything is possible. Don't ever limit yourself to like, no, people like me can't do that. You can do anything you want to do. So moving, just have that courage sometimes, have that faith that things will be okay. 2, when I broke up with my partner, the heartbreak, I was gutted, like everything and nothing made sense anymore. Like, what am I doing here? And then something told me, this will all make sense one day. You'll be okay. I just knew. I can't tell you how. I just knew everything would be fine and it would work out. And can you imagine if I hadn't have met the boyfriend in the club in the UK and then moved to France, gone through all of that, I would never, ever have met my husband and had my children that I have now. So everything has a knock-on effect and everything happens for a reason. My relationship with my ex wasn't the best. And I always was like, oh my God, he was like this, he was like this. I was also that level. I was also triggered and exhibiting toxic behaviours that I had to learn to stop. Otherwise, I would never have attracted the husband that I have now. Like, a healthy relationship needs 2 healthy people, and at the time I wasn't healthy. Like, the mirror was on me and I've changed a lot. So for things to change as well, like, you've got to look back and look at yourself and think, what am I doing and how am I participating in it? So for all of these things to now come full circle, and now 15 years later, I'm living here. I'm in the apartment of my dreams with my husband, with our 3 small children. My daughter just graduated from the University of Sussex, and what a journey. Soon I'll be posting part 2 of what I've learned in the 15 years I've been here, things that have surprised me, and just a good retrospective look back and some practical advice and some other experiences in comparisons to the English life and the French life. So catch you on the next one, guys.